Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our literature unit for the month of September. Welcome back to school, everybody. And you might be ready to read yourself a brand new book. And, if you're looking for something to read, we might have a recommendation for you. Maybe you'd like to try The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
This is a great book. It's a classic, but you can also read the book and then go and find the movie or the film version of it, which is always fun. You'll recognize the witch in it. She's a very famous actress from Australia, Cate Blanchett. The kids aren't as famous, but they're awfully cute. So what we're going to do, as we usually do with literature units, is talk about the plot for the first 2 days, and then we're going to start talking about the author a little bit, and then finally, some of the themes within the book.
The story of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe begins in the midst of World War II. 4 children arrive at the impressive country manor of a distinguished old professor seeking safety from the German bombs falling on English cities. One rainy day soon after their arrival, Lucy hides in a wardrobe during a game only to find that she has entered another world. There, she startles a forest creature who has never met a human. Regardless, they quickly become friends. When she gets back, no time has passed, and her siblings laugh at her story of a magical world, especially Edmund. As it turns out, Edmund is the next to stumble into Narnia. He encounters a subtly frightening woman who offers to make him a prince if he will bring his brother and sisters to her. Edmund is greedy and prone to jealousy, so he doesn't need much convincing. He goes home, but soon after, Peter, Susan, and Lucy return with him to Narnia. They meet Mr. Beaver, who tells them that the White Witch is looking for them. As they flee from this false queen of Narnia, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver tell the children of the mythical Aslan. He is the true king who returns to Narnia to defeat the White Witch. When Edmund hears this, he breaks off from the group to betray his family. However, when he reaches the witch's castle, he is forced to reckon with the fact that she has never intended to honor her promise to him. Meanwhile, the other children meet up with Aslan and an army of talking animals by the stone table.
Okay, guys, let's get started. First of all, let's take a look at the title. So we're going to discover the magical land of Narnia. It doesn't exist in real life. Our author actually made it up. He created this land himself. And it is magical because you'll find that the animals can talk in this particular land of Narnia.
It exists in the imagination of the author C.S. Lewis, which we'll talk about in a couple of days, but we're going to summarize the plot of our story, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, in today's program. And we're also going to discover this magical land. And the story of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe begins in the midst of World War II. So in the midst of means in the middle of, and World War II, of course, was a great conflict which took place in Europe and Asia. And, of course, this is centered in England there because the Germans were bombing London at the time.
I wanted to mention in the title that we've got this word wardrobe, which in America we use primarily to talk about your entire collection of clothes. But if you're speaking with someone from the UK, they'll often talk about storing something in their wardrobe. It just means the closet. We have a lot of wardrobes here because in Taiwan, we don't have a lot of built-in closets, in the older apartments at least. But you can refer to that tall cabinet where you can store your clothes and other things in it as the wardrobe or a wardrobe. I just bought one for my apartment. I'm in a building with no built-in closet. So that's what the wardrobe is there. It doesn't mean someone's collection of clothes.
Indeed, so that's where the story begins, actually, in that wardrobe, and we'll get to that in just a second. So again, this story is taking place in the midst of World War II, or at least it begins in the middle of World War II, and 4 children arrive at the impressive country manor of a distinguished old professor seeking safety from the German bombs falling on English cities. So they're at a country manor, which is like a big house, a chateau or something in the countryside, and the children have just arrived there from one of the cities. I assume it's London. It could be some other place. I'm not quite sure, but in any case, they arrived there to escape the danger of those bombs falling in one of those cities.
The professor is described as being distinguished, which means people know who he is. He's probably quite successful. He has a lot of respect given to him from other people. So he is a distinguished old professor. Sometimes when you see that word manor, I also think automatically of mansion because those manors were quite beautiful. They still are. You'll find more country manors in Europe than you will in America, but they're very, very nice homes. So he is in a beautiful home. The 4 kids have arrived there, and they're seeking safety, as Tom said, from those German bombs. They were bombing cities, especially London at that time.
So these are 4 kids out in the countryside, and one rainy day soon after their arrival, Lucy hides in a wardrobe during a game, only to find that she has entered another world. So again, they're in the country. It's a rainy day, so the kids are probably playing hide and seek or something like that. And Lucy hides in a wardrobe in one of those cabinets where clothing are kept. And then she discovers and she finds that she has actually entered another world. The wardrobe is actually an entrance to this other world, this fantasy magical world.
Of Narnia. Well, there she startles a forest creature who has never met a human. So she runs into some sort of creature who lives in the forest, and that particular creature probably went, "Huh, who are you?" Well, if you startle someone, you kind of shock them, scare them. Maybe you appeared out of nowhere and they kind of jumped. Oh, that's startling someone. You can say if you were the one who was startled, "Oh, you startled me." That happens quite often in real life. So this particular creature has never met a human. Regardless, or even though that's true, they quickly become friends. So this creature sounds like a pretty nice creature.
Indeed, so they become friends, and when she gets back, when Lucy returns, no time has passed. It's as if time did not pass at all. It's as if time stood still there while she was in Narnia, and all her siblings laugh at her story of a magical world, especially Edmund. So siblings, of course, are your brothers and your sisters, and Edmund sounds like a mean boy. He laughs at Lucy. What a stupid story. What a silly story. You imagine that you went to this world and met this forest creature. Boy, do you have a vivid imagination.
Right, so moving on to paragraph 2, it says, as it turns out, Edmund, the one who was making fun of Lucy, saying, "Oh, you're just making up this story, it's not true," he's the next one to stumble into Narnia. To stumble into something means that maybe you didn't plan on it, but it just happened without a lot of planning. Maybe you were able to stumble onto a great new apartment that you could rent. You didn't know that it was there. You just kind of ran into it. That is the meaning here of stumble. You guys are probably used to hearing stumble, though, as a verb that means you kind of trip over something, you kind of lose your balance. But here it just means he found something by chance. It was a chance encounter. So he was the next one to stumble into Narnia.
Right, and after he stumbled into Narnia, he encounters a subtly frightening woman who offers to make him a prince if he will bring his brother and sisters to her. So if something's subtle or if it's done subtly, that means it's not really obvious. It's got a lot of details and things like that that are hard to really pay attention to. So she seems a little frightening, but maybe she's not. She's actually frightening, but it's hard to notice that she is. And she offers to make him a deal. Hey, get your brothers and sisters, and I will make you a prince.
I wonder what this kind of scary woman wants with, the brothers and sisters. So Edmund is greedy. If you're greedy, you want more than your fair share. We also describe people who are greedy, who want more and more money. Money is never enough. They want as much as they can get. Or if you're a little child, maybe you're greedy because if you have candy or some sweets, you don't want to share them with anybody else. You're greedy. Well, he is greedy and prone to jealousy. If you're prone to something, it just means you're likely to be that way. So he's likely to be a jealous person. If you're jealous, you want things that somebody else has. You're not happy for them. You think you should have those things instead. So he is prone to jealousy. You can be prone to lots of things. You can be prone to sneezing if someone shakes too much pepper around. That's my dad. You can be prone to clumsiness if you stumble and don't walk very gracefully. You can be prone to a lot of things. Maybe you're prone to getting colds more easily than others.
And you can use this to describe a place too, like Taiwan is prone to typhoons or Hualien is prone to earthquakes. They say that they get a lot of earthquakes in Hualien. But in this particular case, Edmund is prone to jealousy. He often gets jealous of other people. If you have something that he doesn't have, he's really angry about that. Or, if you like a girl and she actually likes some other guy, then you can get really jealous because of that. And, he wants to be a prince, so he doesn't need much convincing. He's going to let this frightening woman make him a prince, and he will probably bring his brother and sisters to her. What a mean boy. Okay,
I know.
That's a terrible sibling. I'm glad I don't have a brother like that. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
大家好，我是派老师。今天讲解的是9月份 Unit4 Discover the Magical Land of Narnia in the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe 第一天的课程。这个单元要介绍的是经典的英国儿童文学。大家看过《纳尼亚传奇》的电影吗？如果看过，应该就会对课文内容感到相当熟悉。和往常一样，前2天都是书籍内容的概要介绍。第3天的内容包含作品评析以及作者生平介绍。好，我们一起看第一段。第一段大致上介绍了故事背景还有人物。2战期间有4个孩子到乡下躲避战乱，他们先后进入一个奇幻的世界，叫做 Narnia。先是 Lucy， 而后是 Edmund。对内容有大致的了解之后，我们现在一起来看一下这个段落的英文学习重点吧。请先看第一句 The story of the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe begins in the midst of World War II. 好，那请同学呢特别注意到这个 in the midst of 就是在什么期间。再来，请看第2句 Four children arrive at the impressive country manor of a distinguished old professor, seeking safety from the German bombs falling on English cities. 这个句子有3个重点。首先，第一个是分词构句，请注意逗点之后 seeking safety， 这里呢就是属于分词构句。主词一样是 four children， 这4个小孩子，他们是为了要躲避德国轰炸英国的城市，所以到了乡下来。第2个，请特别注意 from 这个介系词，这个介系词有远离的意思。老师给大家一个例句哦 A shot of vaccine is likely to keep you from getting COVID-19. 打一针疫苗有可能呢可以帮你避免掉感染武汉肺炎。 from 一样是远离的意思。再来第三个，请同学看到 a distinguished professor， 意思就是有名望的、受人敬重的教授。那请同学记得一个词叫 distinguished guest， 是贵宾的意思。再来请看到第二段第一句这里 as it turns out 这边，结果在 Lucy 无意间因为躲在衣橱 wardrobe 里面进入 Narnia 之后， Edmund 也误打误撞进入 Narnia。请看到 stumble 这个动词，它的原意其实是走路绊倒了。那再另外补充一下，关于 stumble 有个名词组是 stumbling block， S-T-U-M-B-L-I-N-G， stumbling block 是绊脚石的意思。再来请看到第三句 Edmund is greedy and prone to jealousy， 请特别注意这个 prone to jealousy， prone to 就是容易发生，有什么倾向，所以这句话的意思是 Edmund 贪心又善妒。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back. We're summarizing our featured work of literature for the month of September, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And basically, to summarize so far, we've got these 4 kids leaving a city in England and going to an English manor to stay with a distinguished old professor. They're there to escape the bombs which are falling on English cities. One day, they're playing a game and Lucy is in the wardrobe. She discovers a magical world and she goes into that world and she scares or startles a forest creature. They become friends after that. Lucy comes back and tells her brothers and sisters all about her adventure. Edmund makes fun of her, but then he stumbles into Narnia and comes across a frightening woman, and that woman offers to make him a prince, but he has to bring his brother and sisters to her. And again, Edmund is greedy and prone to jealousy, so he goes ahead and agrees to that deal. Now he goes home, but soon after, Peter, Susan, and Lucy return with him to Narnia. So there we have the names of all the brothers and sisters. We've got Edmund, Peter, Susan, and Lucy.
Now they meet someone called Mr. Beaver. And Mr. Beaver tells them that the White Witch, that kind of a subtly frightening woman who asked Edmund for his brother and sisters, he says that, hey, that White Witch is looking for you guys. So that's what she's referred to as the White Witch. Again, Mr. Beaver tells them that. So they know that she's bad. She's trouble. So they flee. If you flee, you run away very quickly from something you consider to be dangerous. Maybe there is a big fire, and so you flee from the building. Well, as they flee from this false queen of Narnia, she's really not who she says she was. She said she was queen of Narnia, and that's a lie. She's actually the White Witch. As they flee, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver tell the children about someone called Aslan. He's mythical. If someone's mythical, it's almost like they're bigger than life. It's something that doesn't really exist in real life. It's just something that's in a story or a myth. That's where this word mythical comes from. So if something's mythical, it's somebody who is in a myth or in a story of some sort of folk tale. So it almost sounds like Mr. and Mrs. Beaver haven't had any real connection with Aslan. Maybe they haven't seen him yet in real life.
Yeah, I remember seeing this movie many years ago when my daughter was quite small, and it seems to me that Mr. and Mrs. Beaver had a nice little apartment inside their lodge. Okay, just for your reference, beavers will build lodges in rivers. They collect all sorts of pieces of wood and sticks and branches and stuff like that, and they make this house that they live in, and that's called a lodge. So I suppose this conversation took place in their lodge. And again, this couple here, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, tell the children about the mythical Aslan. Who's that? Well, he is the true king who returns to Narnia to defeat the White Witch. So here we have our epic battle between good and evil. We've got Aslan, and he actually turns out to be a big lion, and he has come back to Narnia. I guess he was gone for a while, but he has returned to defeat the White Witch. And of course, if you're in a competition, you want to win and you want to defeat your opponent or defeat your enemy. So we could say that Japan was defeated in World War II.
So when Edmund hears this, he breaks off from the group to betray his family. Oh, that's a bad thing. If you betray someone, you are not loyal to them. So what he's trying to do is go and find the White Witch and give the White Witch his brother and sisters again. Edmund's a bad dude here. If you break off from something, it means you separate yourself from the main group. So maybe you have a meeting and then you have smaller groups that break off and have their own discussions. Or maybe you have a long piece of hard candy and you break off a piece to give it to your friend to eat. That's break off. You separate yourself from a larger group or piece.
And of course, this is an example of the many two-word verb phrases that we have in English, break off. And there are lots of other expressions with the verb break. You can break in. If you're a criminal, you can break into somebody's house and try to steal things. You can break up. If you're a couple and you've been going together for a while and you found that you don't really have enough in common and you don't want to continue the relationship, you can break up. You can break out. Perhaps you have acne problems, so your skin is breaking out. You have lots of zits or pimples on your face. And I think there are several other phrases.
Break down.
Break down if you're dancing or something like that.
Or
break
your car.
Down.
Yeah.
Or you can have a breakdown, which is one word, of course,
yeah.
but the verb phrase would be to break down. You can break down because of anxiety or because of pressure in life and stuff like that. But in any case here, Edmund hears this story about the true king Aslan, who has returned to Narnia to defeat the White Witch. And when he hears this, hey, I guess he's kind of mad about that, so he breaks off from the group, he separates from the group, and he's going to betray his family. What a bad guy.
Yeah, it says here, he is forced to reckon with the fact that she has never intended to honor her promise to him. So he has to accept the fact that she's been lying to him. And so he's willing to betray his family to this liar, this white witch. Please. So if you're forced to reckon with something, it just means you have to deal with the facts and come to some conclusion that something is right or wrong. So he considers something in a specific way. So he is forced to accept the fact that she's a liar.
Exactly. Reckon can also be used in informal speech when you're trying to guess about something. Like somebody once asked me, hey, Tom, how long do you think it will take you to ride your bicycle to the top of Yamingshan? Well, I said, I reckon it will take me about 2 hours to get to the top of the mountain because I'm not really in good shape. I have some friends who can probably get up there in just 1 hour, but it's going to take me 2 hours. So yeah, I reckon that I will get there in 2 hours. But in this particular case, he has to reckon with the fact, he has to deal with the fact that this wicked white witch had never intended to honor her promise to him. She just said she would make him a prince, but she did not intend to do that at all.
I also wanted to mention reckon is often heard in cowboy movies or cowboy shows on TV. Reckon you need some rest. You know, it just means I think, or that's my opinion. So, yeah, he is finally has to conclude that she's been lying to him. He's not going to be a prince for betraying his brother and sisters. So, meanwhile, what's happening with the other kids? Well, they meet up with Aslan, that mythical lion, that lion who's really the true king of Narnia. To meet up with someone just means you get together. You might meet up with someone at a cafe or meet up with someone in a different country. Maybe you had plans to both fly there and then have a vacation together. So they meet up with this big lion who is pretty famous in Narnia because he is the true king. And there's also an army of talking animals by the stone table. An army of just means many, 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 many animals. So it's kind of a fun thing that the animals can talk and can communicate.
Indeed, and there are animals who can communicate, like chimpanzees and gorillas, I believe, can
Even
be taught
dolphins.
Sign language.
Yeah.
But I don't think they can actually speak. Although parrots speak, but people say, they're just repeating what they heard. Yeah. They're not actually generating ideas. But in this particular case, though, it's a fantasy story. And, of course, it's an army of animals that can talk. And they meet at this place or at this structure called the Stone Table. And our story will continue next time. We've come to the end of our summary for today. And it's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
课文第二段开启了4个孩子的奇幻之旅，其中有一个孩子 Edmund 误入歧途，和邪恶力量 White Witch 结合，而其他人在 Mr. and Mrs. Beaver 的介绍之下，也认识了传奇的 Aslan。那当然，邪恶力量会做出邪恶的事情，包括出尔反尔。White Witch 并没有信守对 Edmund 的承诺。这段课文写得非常好。前后连贯非常的重要，所以呢，请同学好好的学习。老师带大家看几个例子，比方说从第3句开始 Edmund is greedy and prone to jealousy, so he doesn't need much convincing. 这里呢是用 so 因果关系来连接前后的句子，而后 he goes home, but soon after， 请同学把 soon after 画起来，那是用时间的顺序把这一句跟前一句标示起来。再来下一句 They meet Mr. Beaver who tells them， 这里请把 they 圈起来，用这个 they 代名词来指称，就是呢前面的这些人 Peter, Susan, Lucy。 好，那接下来请同学看这个段落的英文学习重点，请看第6句 As they flee from this false queen of Narnia。 这里的 flee 呢，其实是不及物动词的用法，不过同学请注意 flee 也有及物动词的用法，包括说 The refugee fled the war-torn country. The refugees fled the war-torn country。难民呢逃离了受到战争蹂躏的国家。好，接下来请看到第8句 When Edmund hears this, he breaks off from the group to betray his family. Break off 是表示脱离的意思，脱离的意思。不过 break off 如果当及物的话，其实我们可以解释成把什么东西拨开来。老师给大家一个例句，比方说 My dad broke off a piece of chocolate and gave it to me. 我爸爸把一块巧克力拨开出一片，然后把那一片给了我。My dad broke off a piece of chocolate and gave it to me. 好，以上是我们今天的中文讲解，谢谢。
That's it for today, but please join us again next time when we continue to summarize our magical story, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Please join us then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.